Gentlemen, this committee recognizes that your constitutional duty is to follow the lawful orders of the president or resign if you don't agree with his decisions and policies like Secretary Mattis did. But I want to emphasize you do not have a duty, constitutional or otherwise, to cover for the commander-in-chief when he is not telling the truth to the American people. With that, I have a few questions that I'd like you to keep short, concise answers to. On August 18th, in a media interview to the American people, the president said that none of his military advisors told him that he should keep U.S. forces in Afghanistan. General Milley, that was a false statement by the President of the United States, was it not?
I didn't even see the statement, to tell you the truth.
I'm reading you a truthful statement. That was a false statement?
Yeah, look,
I don't have a lot of time.
Okay,
Was that
okay.
a false statement to the American people?
I'm not going to
or
categorize a statement of a president of the United States.
General McKenzie, was that a false statement? The president said none of his commanders said that he should keep troops in Afghanistan. Was that a false statement by the President of the United States? Remember, you do not have a duty to cover for the president when he's not telling the truth. Was that a false statement or not?
I've given you my opinion on the matter. I've given you my judgment on it. And
I think we all know it was a false statement, okay? That's number one. President also said if there's an American citizen left behind in Afghanistan, the military is going to stay until we get them out. General Milley, did that statement turn out to be true or untrue by the president?
I think that was the intent, but we gave him a recommendation on the 25th of August to terminate the mission on the 31st of August.
Statement was untrue. Let me ask another question. General Milley, General McKenzie, the president around the same time said, quote, Al-Qaeda was gone from Afghanistan, told the American people that. Was that true or not true? Was Al-Qaeda gone from Afghanistan in mid-August? True or not true?
Al-Qaeda is still in Afghanistan. They were there in mid-August. They have been severely disrupted and attrited over many, many years. They are not capable.
So it wasn't true. General McKenzie, was that true or not?
Al-Qaeda was present in Afghanistan.
Okay, so it wasn't true. Let me make one final one. The president called this entire retrograde operation an extraordinary success. General Miller, in his testimony, disagreed with that assertion. General Milley, was this Afghanistan retrograde operation an extraordinary success?
There's two operations, Senator.
Just yes or no. I have a lot of questions. Was this an extraordinary success?
Senator, with all due respect, there's two operations. There's the retrograde, which Miller was in charge of, and there's the NEO, which CENTCOM was in charge of. The retrograde was executed and ended by mid-July with a residual force to defend the embassy. The NEO...
You and I have discussed this. Would you use the term extraordinary success for what took place in August in Afghanistan?
That's the non-combatant evacuation, and I think one of the other senators said it very well. It was a logistical success, but a strategic failure. And I think those are two different terms.
Look, I think, here's the problem. I think the whole world knows, this is the cover of the Economist magazine, Biden's debacle. That had stories in it, articles in it called "The Fiasco in Afghanistan is a huge and unnecessary blow to America's standing." That was one article. Joe Biden blames everybody else. That's another article. China sees America humbled. That's another article. And gentlemen, the problem here, these are not marginal misstatements by the president to the American people. These are dramatic, obvious falsehoods that go to the very heart of the foreign policy fiasco we have all witnessed. These are life and death deceptions that the president of the United States told the American people. I have one final question. I might leave it because it's a long one for the follow-up, but here's the anger. I've never seen my constituents more angry about an issue than this. And it's the combination of everybody knowing that this is a debacle, and yet people defending it as a, quote, extraordinary success. And here's the biggest: no accountability. No accountability. You gentlemen have spent your lives, and I completely respect it. Troops in combat, you've been in combat, you've had troops under your command killed in action. You have been part of an institution where accountability is so critical, and the American people respect that. Up and down the chain, where there are instances, commanders get relieved. Up and down the chain, we see it. the McCain incident, the Fitzgerald incident, the AAV incident with the Marine Corps, 3-star, 4-star flag officers, all relieved of duty. But on this matter, on the biggest national security fiasco in a generation, there has been zero accountability, no responsibility from anybody. And I will tell you again, gentlemen, I've never seen so much anger, at least from my constituents, who've witnessed a fiasco, a humiliation, a president who is consistently telling falsehoods to the American people, and the issue of there's no accountability. And you gentlemen have spent decades serving your country honorably in combat. I have the utmost respect for your service, your fidelity to America. And importantly, you've dedicated your lives to an institution that has a culture of strict accountability and responsibility up and down the ranks. I mentioned a few examples this morning, the collisions of the USS McCain and Fitzgerald. Everybody up and down the ranks, including the 3-star admiral, was relieved. The recent, very tragic Marine AAV accident, everybody up and down the ranks, including the commanding general of the 1st Marine Division, was relieved. If you're a Marine or Army 2nd Lieutenant training your platoon on patrol and one of your soldiers loses his NVGs or his rifle, that lieutenant is going to get relieved. But on this issue, one of the biggest national security fiascos in a generation, no one is accountable. And the American people are livid because they saw it, they see it, they know. It's a debacle. General Milley, this morning you called the Afghan retrograde a logistical success, but, quote, a strategic failure. I appreciate your honest assessment. I believe the President of the United States is solely responsible for this. Mr. Secretary, do you know if anyone, the National Security Advisor, the Secretary of State, or Undersecretary for Policy of DoD has offered their resignation to take responsibility for this fiasco?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not, but I don't believe they have.
Okay, thank you. Given the military culture of accountability that all of you gentlemen come from, and again, I respect that more than almost anybody, have any of you offered your resignation to the President at any time since his decision to withdraw? And General Milley, I understand your earlier answer to this question, that senior military advisors and officers can't resign every time they disagree with the President. I actually agree with that. But after the President's decision, when the American people see such a strategic failure, as you called it, that's undermining our national security, they expect accountability, and there has been none. So have any of you accepted that accountability or responsibility?
I'm accountable for my actions. And
No, I'm just
accountable for
talking about a resignation.
I have not submitted my letter of resignation.
Mr. Secretary?
No.
General?
I have not submitted a letter of resignation.
Mr. Secretary, I want to know, what will it take for someone, anyone in the Biden administration to take responsibility or accountability for this national security fiasco? Anyone?
Senator, from a DOD perspective, again, you heard me say that we'll continue to review our actions, and we won't hesitate to be critical of ourselves. And if there's someone that should be held accountable for an action, then we'll certainly do that.
I want to switch topics here very quickly. General Milley, do you think if the Chinese Communist Party decided to invade Taiwan, would their military leadership call and give you a heads up?
I think there'd be a period of increased tension, indicators and warnings, and I think there'd be an exchange of various communications at all levels. Department
You really
of State.
think the Chinese,
And I think
you really
I
think
would-
that you really think the Chinese Communist Party head of the PLA would call and say, "Hey, General, FYI, we're going to get ready to invade Taiwan. I just thought I'd give you a heads up." You think you,
I know
you
I would-
honestly think that?
I know I'd call him and ask him.
No,
I
I'm
would call
asking
him
the
and
other
ask him
question.
outright.
You think he'd give you a heads up
I think
on the
that,
invasion of Taiwan?
I think an invasion of Taiwan would be a fairly obvious thing to pick up on. And
No,
there'd be
I
a lot of
didn't, but that's not
communication
what I
going back
asked.
and
Let me ask a related question.
forth. Sure.
I think the answer to that is no. I think if the head of the PLA called you and said, hey, we're getting ready to invade Taiwan, and Xi Jinping found out about it, he'd be shot. But let me ask a related question. You said you were, quote, certain that President Trump did not intend on attacking China. That's what you just said.
That's correct.
Yet you're quoted in the Woodward book as telling the top Chinese Communist military commander, quote, if we're going to attack, I'm going to call you ahead of time. Is that true, General Milley?
Well, let me tell you what I actually said.
That's not true. I hope that's
Let me
not
tell you what I actually said, Senator. What I said, if there's going to be a war, if there's going to be an attack, there's going to be a lot of calls and tension ahead of time.
But what you
You're
just
going to
said,
get called. You're going to
your
get called. It's
testimony was
context.
that you were
Senator, it's
certain
all-
President Trump would not attack. That's your testimony this morning.
That is true. That is
Okay, then
absolutely
why would
true.
you-
And I was communicating to my Chinese counterpart on instructions, by the way, to de-escalate the situation. And I told him that we are not going to attack. President Trump has no intent to attack. And I told him that repeatedly. And I told him if there was going to be an attack, there'll be plenty of communications going back and forth. Your intel system's going to pick it up. I said, I'll probably call you. Everybody will be calling you. We're not going to attack you. Just settle down. It's not going to happen. And I did it twice, in October and January.
I
Thank
think
you,
if
Senator
you're giving
Sullivan.
a heads up to the Chinese Communist Party,
I didn't give them a heads up we're going to attack because we weren't going to attack.
If
I
we're
was
going
telling
to
them we were
attack,
not
I'm
going to
gonna
attack,
call you
which was
ahead of
being
Senator
faithful
Sullivan.
to the President of the United States' intent.
Time
I was
expired.
being faithful to his intent, Senator.